Hi, my name is Debois, and today we're going to talk about DevSecOps culture and how I believe we're heading towards a team-centric view. Some of you might know that I've been advocating DevOps since many years now, and I've never had a real definition of what DevOps should be, or could be, for that matter. I kind of started settling now after so many years on the following. DevOps or DevSecOps is everything you do to overcome the friction created by silos. And all the rest is plain engineering. So there's definitely some technology involved, but there's a lot of things that you're actually doing to overcome that friction. And for me, that's kind of the core purpose of DevOps and DevSecOps, is looking at what friction that we can overcome. Friction points have been in many places. The bottlenecks, we've kind of discussed the technical bottlenecks quite often, like what different environments, the dev environment, the test environment. We've discussed the management style, discussions about budget, which group gets which budget, personal, educational, like who gets what training, and kind of our answer in the past has been to put the command and control somewhere in the middle, and that we are regulating like a police, saying what goes in from dev, what goes in to security, what comes in customer and operations. But these pressure points have been building up, and luckily we're trying to overcome them somehow. And we've seen the following pressure shifts. Agile has kind of moved the pressure from the customer and cut out the middleman, kind of get feedback to the team who was implementing them. Ops kind of got a pressure point by virtualization and ops, that they started less focusing on infrastructure and more on the service. DevOps kind of moved the application towards production and started caring a lot more on the production. And now we're kind of in DevSecOps, where we have another friction or pressure point, which is security. And we're trying to address security earlier in the value stream. So those forces or kind of things are moving towards the team and are trying to cut out the management of command and control in the middle. So management actually becomes a supportive function, which is around the team supporting what they need to do. So that's kind of where management style is heading in this direction. So what we actually hope, the Valhalla of what we're trying to do, is that that team somehow knows magically what to do. So it has the autonomy to do what they think it's right. So we're putting the power to the people who are doing the work. So that's kind of the movement we're going through, from people who aren't doing the work, who kind of try to control who does the work, to kind of the team doing it autonomously. So there is a transfer of authority that we're trying to build here, that we empower people in the team to do the right thing. What's interesting is that the company culture has evolved over many years. And in his book, Reinventing Organization, Frederic Laloux kind of shows you the kind of transition the thinking has been making around collaboration culture. The first collaboration culture is kind of command and control, and it stems a little bit from the castles and making sure nobody gets in, and the sovereign who kind of dictates what the law is. This kind of power-centric command and control thinking. You can still see this in metaphors like the firewall or the castle coming in and coming out. But we're kind of evolving we have evolved since that, and we started approaching things with a more modern way of automation. Think of it as the evolution from castles to building factories. And the factories of the automation kind of brought stability, a repeatable process of things we can do. So it becomes a different way of controlling things, kind of controlling the process. Moving from this automation or factory setting, we started looking at how we get better at this process, and the measuring became important. The scientific method prevailed. It wasn't just like a repeatable thing, but now it was about getting better at this repeatable thing. Then we moved on to the next thing. We started asking, like, kind of who are we doing this for? So it wasn't just about the process, but we started looking at a customer-centric view. And we really wanted to be focused on what the customer wants in a good way, and not just what we could build. And then eventually he argues that we're entering the phase of evolutionary. We're not just doing it for somebody, we want it to be meaningful what we do. And it seems each of the steps is still somewhere prevalent in our culture of collaboration. Some will have like hints and glimmers of the power-centric, and some are kind of hints and glimmers at the evolutionary step. To be clear, probably one is not per se better than the rest, but you need to apply them differently and understand when to apply them. And it looks to me that each of them is actually creating space for the next phase to happen. So it's very rare that you can just enter evolutionary if you don't try to get a clear safety on the power and control. So each of them kind of builds on top of each other. And that space is where I think we can actually start thinking about changing things. And that's where changing things are things that we can do to reduce the friction. We kind of see this command and control versus evolutionary also happening in the DevSecOps or DevOps team patterns described in the book on DevOps topologies or team topologies. Some kind of keep the center of authority somewhere in the middle. Some are trying to overlap completely. And that's kind of a mixture of different styles. And again, one could have more impact than the other, but depending on what evolutionary step you're in